Well, hello everyone. How are you? I should probably pull my mic on. Hello. That is classic. Great to have you here tonight. Thanks for joining me. Want to talk about the thing between your ears, that thing called your head. We're going to talk about some mental judo, dealing with this issue of limiting beliefs. Where are you from? Where are you listening? Go ahead and put in the comments below. Tell me where you're listening from. I want to see what city or state or a country you might be in. You can go ahead and put that below. In addition, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free. Drop them in the comments. I would love to address anything that you're questioning, anything you're struggling with. I'm here tonight to serve you. And with that, let's dive into the good stuff. Have you ever noticed that we, in and of ourselves, are storytellers? I bet you didn't know that. Every one of us tells stories. We tell stories all the time. We describe how our day was. We describe how our meal was. We describe how the trip was. We describe how our job is. We're always telling stories, but one of the stories we're telling the most, or the way that we're telling stories, is inside our own head. We're constantly telling our stories about why someone did something, why this happened, why someone should think this way, or why that person's wrong, or what in the world were they thinking. And this is part of our thinking, is we're telling ourselves stories. And so number one I want to tell you is that we are we are all storytellers. We're constantly telling stories all the time. And as such, those stories often are junky because we're bad storytellers. We tell ourselves stories often, stories that don't serve us. We're telling ourselves stories about why we don't deserve, why we're not worthy, why we don't have what it takes. And it's one of these elements where you walk into a situation or into a relationship or into a job and things look great, but for some reason you just will not let yourself be you. You will not let yourself get excited or happy, or you won't let yourself really fully engage, or you won't let yourself fill in the blank, because in your mind you're probably thinking like, when's the shoe gonna drop? When am I going to screw this up? When are they going to tell me no? When are they going to say you're fired? When are they ... And we'll create a story about something that happened in our lives in the past, something someone said, something someone did, something we said, something we did, and we'll define all of our future interactions according to that engagement. That's crappy. And oftentimes, things that even happened in our childhood will program us to believe certain things. This is all mindset issues. And of course, this is something that I love to talk about with all of my clients. I love to talk about it over a beer. I love to talk about it all the time because I believe it's such a critical component. Your belief system is based around all these stories we're telling ourselves. And, if I could just give you a quick breakdown, it's those things we hear about, we think about, we talk about, and we bring about, right? Hey, Brian, great to have you here. And so as such, we're telling ourselves really crap stories. So we're bad storytellers, right? Well, I want to share with you a couple of elements on how to turn this around so that we can be better storytellers, okay? From now on, we are all going to be better storytellers. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off with a little mental judo. Now, if you're not familiar with martial arts, and I'm only familiar with martial arts because of my wife, really. Well, let me take that back. I had a little, Sunday karate movies back when I was a kid. But as I've gotten older, I met my wife. We used to watch a lot of MMA and mixed martial arts, that is. You might know it as... Ultimate Fighter, you might know it as UFC, all these different things are MMA. And I learned about Judo. Judo is one of the few martial arts where it's actually not so much about your strength. It's more about you using the other person's strength. You use their will and their force against them. So as they come to you, You manipulate your body or your weight, you become what's called a fulcrum, which is that balancing point to bring someone to the ground or take them off balance. And so what oftentimes happens in other martial arts is people use force against it. So I want you to think about this in context of the stories we're believing about ourselves. We're telling our stories, and this force is coming against us. You're not worthy, you don't deserve, or you don't have what it takes. And in that head, that story is just generating energy. And as such, we create these opportunities for self-sabotage. So, how do we use those stories in a way that actually help us and benefit us? Well, the first thing you have to identify is that the story's going on. Becoming self-aware and emotionally intelligent, when you start feeling that certain emotion, you start thinking that certain thing, you'll, I got this. Well, hold on a second. And the first thing you want to do is this. From your mental judo, you're going to go from this place that says reframe. You want to reframe the story. Now, for me, one thing I wrestled with was rejection. I'm kind of a futurist. I see things in the future. I can kind of see where something's going. And in my mind, I'm already there. But in the past, I've neglected to be patient or to fully explain something to someone to take him down the bridge to get there. It might be a point A to point B to point C, that could help. Or otherwise, I come in with this great, movement or emotion or thought. And in some way or shape or form, someone tells me, no, that's dumb, that's stupid, you're an idiot, or what have you. And part of that was feeling misunderstood. So I've had times in my life in Bible college, I went to school in a Bible college, if you didn't know, they withheld my diploma at the end of the school year because they said I didn't take ministry serious enough. Because I was freaking 19 years old. I had just become a Christian a couple years earlier. I used to be dancing in the clubs, and my life was changed, and I decided to go to Bible school to become a youth pastor and work with kids and transform their lives. And that's kind of a fun thing. You're working with kids, it's a fun engagement. Kids want you to be fun. And for whatever reason, there were people in leadership that didn't think me being fun was cool. And time again, I got called on the carpet. And it got to a point where I really recognized the power of religion and legalism. And it kind of wrecked me for a little while. And so that was one piece. Another time I started my first business, and I was trying to bring this really progressive thing into a small town in central Wisconsin called a cyber cafe. Now this is circa 1998. And they didn't have cyber cafes. And if you don't know what a cyber cafe, maybe that's beyond you. It was a coffee shop with computers and internet. And we had Wi-Fi. That was a new thing back then where you had wireless. We did LAN parties, which everybody would bring their computers, and we had all these routers and cables, and it was awesome. But there were other people in town that said, who are these big city folk? Who do they think they are? Nelson Boyd goes off and thinks he's solved all the world's problems and come back here also he's misunderstood. Time and time again, there are things that I've done to step out and felt rejected. So I said all that to say there are parts of me sometimes where I'm afraid to share a new idea because there is a story I used to believe that said I'm going to be rejected. And so I'll save you the trouble, and I'll sabotage this, or I'll give you some kind of an opposition that you can create to reject me already. And that way we'll save everyone some trouble. What a crap story. So I started telling myself a new story. It's not about rejection. That feeling of being misunderstood is never indicative of me. Their misunderstanding is because they don't have critical thinking or some kind of context or some life experience, or they can't see beyond what they already know. And therefore, this is something that they struggle with. This is not something for me to struggle with. So I created healthier boundaries to know that if someone doesn't get it, somebody isn't with me. That's nothing about me. That's simply about them. So I reframed the story. So that now I come to something and I share an idea and someone's like, I don't get it. What are you thinking? Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, sorry you didn't get that. No, this is totally cool. Yeah, it's all good. And get to a place where I can be healthy and whole because in myself now I've done the work to become comfortable in my own skin. I have nothing to gain, nothing to prove, and nothing to lose because I've reframed stories in my life. Here's the second thing you can do. This other part of this mental judo. Mental judo is to replace those thoughts. So now you want to understand this. It's like when you get to this place, here, let me use on the screen. My mic's in the way. I'll put my hand up here. You see that? So when you have something you've been hanging on to for a long time, this is my crap story, right? And I get to the place where I finally let go of that story. Now my hand is open. It's probably better over here. I don't know. This is here. So here I am with my hand open. Well, now I need to put something there. Otherwise, I create a vacuum to only take on more crap stories. And so now I take on a new story. And I replace the old one with this new one. And like I shared with you, is I replace that story of old that was rejection to this new story that is simply that what their problem is not my problem. I've created boundaries and I can be fulfilled in who I am and be comfortable in myself. It's a crazy concept for some people. And many times, especially in this westernized American culture, we're very performance driven, right? By the way, I want to, if you just came in, drop any comments below, say where you're from. If you get this, thumbs up, something like that, let me know you're listening, okay? So in this concept of, replacing how you think, replacing all of the concepts is finding the story in such a way that, or defining the story rather in such a way that now gives you life, now gives you energy, now gives you power. You come now from a place of abundance and from a place of generosity and from this place of power and knowing, because I've replaced the old story with a new story. Does that make sense? When I went through a divorce, actually, ironically, near that one of those seasons, and I thought I was a failure. And so because I had this failed experience, I then defined myself as a failure. And it took me a few years to pull myself out of this really negative spiral where I thought these really terrible things about myself. And I didn't, again, think I was worthy or that I deserve or that I had what it takes for a new relationship. And so 3 years, I was kind of a recluse. I didn't date. I was a bit of a man whore, and I was just wallowing through my pain. But I learned how to reframe the story. And I learned how to replace the old thoughts with the new thoughts. And I got to this place where I saw, you know what? I've learned from that situation. I got counseling, and that counseling gave me new tools and gave me new perspective and gave me new understanding of who I was and what I was capable of, and gave me clarity about how I was seeing some of these stories. Game changer. So I know how to reframe. I know how to replace some of these stories. And now here's the next part. So I've got these stories in my head, and I'm taking the stories and I'm reframing them. And then the next part is I'm replacing them. And now here's the best part, is now I'm retraining those stories. For a while, you'll have the old story come in, and then you have to go into jiu-jitsu and turn it into a reframed story. And then you got to replace the story. And this stuff is kind of work. But when you get to the place of retraining the story, now the story becomes natural, organic, and easy. Because the old barrage of storylines no longer have any power over you. And so they leave you alone. They stop being such a threat. It's kind of like they come to the door and they knock, and you open. Hey, how's it going? They come to the door, they knock. Who is it? And they get attention. And then finally they knock, and nobody comes to the door. And nobody acknowledges them. And they keep knocking until they finally realize, nobody's going to acknowledge me. That's those crap stories. Because you've learned a new weapon and you've used those bad stories to now reframe and replace and then in sequence you can retrain your brain. And now you walk into a story, or excuse me, walk into a situation and you have this new story. And so suddenly your shoulders are back, your head is up. You walk with this confidence, you walk with this like humble swagger and this quiet confidence, knowing who you are. And as I said before, like nothing to gain, nothing to prove. In that state, now you can attract new opportunities and you can attract new relationships. All of it stemming from the stories that we tell ourselves. And when we understand that the stories, when they are left in their negative state, will continue to withhold from you the best life has to offer you. And so I want all of us to become better storytellers, to where now the stories that you tell yourself go from reframe to replace to retrain. And here's the thing that happens once you retrain your brain. You become a new identity. Your nature now operates on a new level and a new energy. You have this new identity and understanding of yourself. And people take notice. And you look in the mirror and you feel different and you act different. You see different. Because now you've retrained the stories. That's my hope for you today. So, I just want to tell you, if you are a man and you are looking to advance your life, I am starting a new program called Man of Wealth, launching September 1st. After that, I'll put you on a waiting list. If you don't make it into the gates, we're going to go for 3 months. I'm looking for 12 men who are ready to radically change their lives. We're going to deal with 3 things. We're going to deal with mindset, as you've heard some of the stuff I've talked about today. We're going to deal with action, taking action in your life, and we're going to deal with nurturing. Doing the things that give you better relationships, better continuity and alignment with the things that you dream and the things that you want, with the things that you do and the things that you think. Now that's stuff that will transform your life. And I call it Man of Wealth because it deals with all the areas of life that make us rich. It's mental, it is spiritual, it is physical, it is relational, etc., etc. All those pillars that make us who we are. When we can excel and become aligned in those areas, we suddenly live from a place that's rich. Now, some would say, oh, what about the money, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That's a mindset issue. If you're thinking all of money is a bad thing, well, that's part of all of this health or part of all this wealth understanding is that wealth creation is a product of being and energy and thinking. It's not about doing and striving and sweating. You can make more money with your mind than you ever can with your hand. And it's all about becoming a man of wealth. And if that's of interest to you, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to tell you more. I'm going to have more information available throughout this week. I'm going to be sharing with you some testimonies. I'm going to be sharing with you some other information about the group and how it's going to launch. And I'm calling this the Man of Wealth Accelerator, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to accelerate your life. And if that's of interest to you, again, reach out. Can't wait to work with you. Can't wait to share more with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to share with me, or to hang out with me tonight. And if you're listening to the replay, go ahead and put some stuff down below saying replay, 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 and tell me that you watched this. Thanks so much, you guys. Have an awesome night. I look forward to hearing from you and spending some more time with you here in the future. Take care.